Good evening. Welcome in and welcome back to State of the Tigers, PowerMizzou.com's weekly show on Mizzou football. Monday nights brought to you by James Carlton State Farm. You can find James at carltoninsurance.net. You can get a hold of him at 314-961-4800. His information will be rolling across the bottom of the screen all show long. If you are joining us here on YouTube, appreciate you guys joining us live. We were here last Monday. We took the Thursday show off. We are back this Monday because football is back. Mizzou football is back. That is, football in general did not go anywhere. But Mizzou football returns after a week off. I want to invite you guys, if you're here with us live, put your comments, your questions, whatever in the queue. We will get to those as the show goes along. We bring Gerald Hamilton onto your screen. Jarod and I spent the previous 8 minutes or so fixing the Kansas City Chiefs. We will spend the next, 30, 40, 50 minutes talking Mizzou football. So, Jarod, I know you agree with me now. The bye week is the best week of the year, man.
It's my favorite week of the year.
Yeah,
it was much needed. Got me back up. I feel in a much different sense. Like the football players, a bye week won't get you to 100%, but it may take you from 60 to 75, 80%. That's what I'm feeling right.
So before we get to Mizzou, Georgia, look, it's like I kind of wrote in 10 thoughts this morning. It's a game worthy of all the hype and buildup I think we can give it the next 5 days. But before we get to that, like, did you watch a lot of football on Saturday? Like, what stood out to you on the bye? Or did you just say, "Nah, I'm out, man. I'm gonna go enjoy the 35-degree rain"?
Well, what happened was Friday I was out. Saturday I got to see I had the Florida State Wake Forest game on. I was making some food. I had that on. Watched the first quarter of the Georgia Florida game, and then I also realized what reality is people want to talk to you and hang out and stuff. I was hanging out with my girlfriend. So
no, not me, man. I don't have that problem. I'm good.
people are like, "Oh, we know you're on." No, it's the bye week and stuff, which is completely fine. I did watch the Georgia Florida game, like a condensed version this morning before I started writing my column. That's all I really got to see, but I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah, Jared's asking you a question that.
He said Freeway Jared asked, anybody going to the game? I'm trying to find a tailgate crew. He tells me I have a nice hat, young Bryson Tiller. I've been getting that for I don't know how many years now. I just need a haircut, y'all. That's all it is.
So with Georgia, there have been 2 games this year that I was like, okay, I want to watch this Georgia game. I think this would be a game worth watching. The first one was Georgia-Kentucky. I can't remember what game we covered that day. But by the time it was over, I knew I was going to get home early second quarter. And my plan was turn on Georgia-Kentucky. It was 31-7 in the middle of the second quarter. So I did not watch a snap of that game. I was like, this game's over. So Florida, I was watching Kansas, Oklahoma. Might have fallen asleep. Woke back up, rewound it to watch the end of Kansas, Oklahoma. And so then I ran and did a couple things. I was going to watch Georgia, Florida. And by the time I went to want to watch Georgia, Florida, it was 24-7. And I'm like, no, this game's over. So I've basically seen Georgia not play at all because the only 2 games I wanted to watch, they ended before I could turn them on.
I think that first game was after we covered LSU, I want to say.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, I watched the first quarter. I actually watched I seen Florida get on the board first. I was thinking, I didn't think it was going to be a game, but I was like, that's a good sign. At least they have that. I think I seen Georgia maybe hit a field goal or something after that. After that, I didn't watch the rest, but that's when everything got bad for Florida. Got bad for Florida after that.
Yeah, and so that game kind of made me. Here's what I think the biggest thing for Missouri, Georgia is, and I'm going to make a lot of you guys know I'm a big golf fan, so I'm going to make a golf analogy here. Every April on Thursday afternoon, Jim Nantz tells us you cannot win the Masters on Thursday, but you can lose it. Missouri cannot beat Georgia in the first quarter on Saturday, but Missouri can 100% lose to Georgia in the first quarter on Saturday. They don't have to be ahead after the first quarter. They don't have to have a Kentucky first quarter and be up 14-0. they absolutely can't be behind 14-0 after the first quarter, or that game is over.
For sure. Yeah, at least was it arms reach, basically? Arms reach, if they can do that. I think even if it's like a 7-3 thing, but you can my biggest thing is can the offense get up and down the field, Will? Are they having a quick 3 and out or something like that? Like what happens if they have to receive the ball first? I think that's a huge possession because we've seen that versus Kentucky when they received, it was like a quick 3 and out, then Kentucky scored. And obviously they kind of got it back when they got the forced fumble to start that first play was Joe Charleston making that fumble. But that doesn't happen that often. So they've got to score quickly. They got to move the ball up and down the field early on.
Yeah, David Fine actually asked if we win the toss, take the ball or defer. I defer. This is the one thing that Andy Reid taught me about football that I totally agree with. You always defer. You never take the ball.
Always. Yeah, that swing to, whether you have the ball at the end of the first half or if you can get a stop to stop someone else's momentum knowing you're going to get the ball, it's always going to be huge. I forgot who I seen last week. I can't remember if it was college or it's probably NFL, but I feel like a team, they received the ball and they scored fast, quick and early. And it's like, good for them. That's what you need to do. But how many times does it feel like a team chooses to receive, then scores immediately? I don't know. I don't think that's the approach.
Because to me, even if you're down 14 points at halftime, if you're getting the ball to start the third quarter, we're one play away from a one possession game.
Right.
It is. I would much rather have them because also a lot of teams take a minute to settle in. And I expect that on Saturday out of Missouri. I think there's going to be some nerves. I don't think Missouri scores on the first drive. I don't think they look perfect on the first drive because, look, like it or not, no player on this team has ever played a game like this in college. I mean, I don't know, maybe Theo Weiss played one at Oklahoma. But for the most part, these guys have not played a game against a team like this in an atmosphere like this with these kind of stakes. I think it would be perfectly understandable if there's a little bit of shakiness at the beginning.
Yeah, well, I will say, obviously not to this degree, but playing some of the games this year versus a LSU, versus a Kentucky, versus Kansas State, all those teams were ranked. I feel like that helps this group a little bit. They got off to a really hot start versus LSU. I'm not comparing it to playing Georgia or any of the games Georgia's played. I'm just saying for this group this year, it helps being, playing some of these games and having confidence from those, from those type of outings and stuff like that.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to pretend that Missouri won't be prepared, doesn't know what they're doing, anything like that. I'm just saying, this one's different, and I think it's going to feel different. And as much as you can prepare for that, and as much as you can tell guys and all that, I'm not sure you really feel it until you're out there. Aiden says the only way they win is 24-20. So I was asked this question, what kind of game do you think gives Missouri a better shot? Low scoring or a shootout?
I want to say a shootout. And I want to say the reason I'm saying that is I just like it better. If I'm a fan of the team, I like it better if my offense is flowing. Because then you think at the end of the game, I feel much more confident in my offense that's flowing to maybe get us over the hump. Even if it's in a low scoring game versus this particular team. I mean, Georgia, we seen it last year. It was not all that high scoring. It was a pretty good game, but it wasn't super high scoring. It felt kind of like a slug. And then fourth quarter comes, boom. I think it was 17-3 outscored Missouri or something like that. I think I want Brady Cook and the offense to be kind of hot a little bit and be able to make a play maybe down the stretch or something.
See, I go the other way. I think Missouri, I'm with Aiden. I think they have a better chance to win 24-20 than they would 45-42. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, I don't know that you can hang 40 points on this Georgia defense. I know Ohio State did it last year, but look, man, that was CJ Stroud, who apparently is a lot better than I thought, and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. And I mean, Ohio State had dudes, and nobody else hung 40 on Georgia. And I don't think anybody's come particularly close to doing it this year. The other thing is, if I'm the underdog, I feel a little bit better about a low-scoring game because I think in a low-scoring game, like if you have a 3-and-out, if you have a turnover, like it doesn't feel like this death blow, right? I mean, I covered the 2013 SEC title game against Auburn, and that game was, I want to say it was 42-42 at the end of 3 quarters. I mean, they were just up and down the field. And then Missouri had one drive where it didn't score. And it felt like, oh no. Like it was just one mistake, but it felt like it buried them because they've been scoring all day long. And in the end, that's what happened. Basically, Auburn scored, Missouri failed on one drive, and that's what ended up beating them. I just think a lower scoring game gives the underdog a little bit more margin for error.
That's a good point. And guys, any way you fall, we can make arguments for both sides, honestly. I will say playing versus LSU and how that game was and them going back and forth. I know they lost by 10, but really, what was it? What was the?
It was the late pick.
It was the pick 6. Yeah. So really, it was 3. And the way it wasn't like Missouri was struggling on that last drive before the the false start and the big fumble. So they were moving the ball down the field quite efficiently, really quickly, and most of us in the press box think they were at least tying, if not going to score. They were moving the ball, so they can do that. I know LSU's defense is way beneath Georgia's defense. I do know that, but that's still. I mean, the games they played this year, they've played some good defenses, and they've still been able to move the ball and score points. So having that, when they played Georgia in 2013, the game everybody talks about, that was a pretty high scoring game. I know that's obviously different players and all that stuff, but I don't know, something about that offense has everybody going. I know there's probably going to be a good Missouri crowd there with them. Maybe that helps them too. I don't know. I'm feeling the offense right now.
So you said Missouri's played some good defenses. I think Missouri's played one good defense. I think Kansas State's pretty good on defense. I don't know if anybody else.
When I said that, that's what I was thinking of. Kansas State.
Kentucky
okay. Their defense, I always say this, a lot of the defenses, Middle Tennessee, that was a good defense. Part of that was their mistake, but Middle Tennessee kind of kept them in check. We don't know, I guess, in a way, though, because Missouri wasn't playing the same offense they're playing.
Right.
So, I don't know. You can squash that one. But they've played some okay defenses that have been good at they've been playing some okay defenses that are good at certain things. Like Kentucky, they're good at one part of defense and maybe not the other part. Like I can't remember if they were good at stopping. They were good at stopping the run, I think. And then maybe they're not that great against the pass or whatever.
So let's revise that to say Missouri has played some defenses. We don't know if they're good at it, but they have. We can confirm they have played some defenses. They haven't played anybody quite like Georgia. All right, so I put this. This was one of the first comments, and I put it off because I didn't want to start the show having to like be a therapist and fix attitudes around here, but that's what we're gonna do now. Kyler T, I honestly believe there is a world where if we win out, we get snubbed for the college football playoff. So let me tell you why that's not true. I made some people mad when I texted them on Saturday. I said, "Hey, just so you know, I'm rooting for KU today." And first of all, because it's an upset, man. I root for upsets. Like people get mad in here. KU football and KU basketball are different things for me. Like KU football, whatever. I get they have Jayhawks on their helmets. I never hated KU football because it wasn't like. You hate teams that are good, and Missouri and Kansas football, it was kind of like just this afterthought, honestly, to me. But here's the main reason. Because Oklahoma losing that game, the path is clear, man. If Missouri wins every game they play through the SEC championship, they are playing in the college football playoff. There is not any I cannot invent a scenario where that doesn't happen.
Right. And Kyler, I mean, come on, man. Where's the optimism at? If you beat the the back-to-back reigning champs on a 25-game win streak on the road. Then you beat Tennessee, that's ranked. You beat this. I don't think Florida's good, but everybody for the whole season they've been boosting them up as at least competent. And then you go ahead and finish Arkansas, and your only loss is to
and then you win the SEC title game.
Yeah, so then your only loss is to what I don't know where LSU is going to be, but a top 15, 20 team or wherever they fall. You don't think you're going to make the college football playoff?
That's crazy.
See, I understand because me and Gabe, before we got on here, I was telling him about when I see the Chiefs schedule, there's some games when I know they're playing a marquee game, I will count it as a loss. Not because I think they're going to lose. Just so if it does happen, it's just like, okay. But the level of pessimism is quite steep right there.
Okay, let me invent the worst case scenario for Missouri winning out and see if that would keep them out of the playoff. So Florida State wins out. So Florida State's getting in, right?
Mm-hmm. That's one.
Ohio State or Michigan wins out, whichever one it is. I don't care.
Okay.
The other one's 11-1.
Would it be you got a Big 12 team in there?
I mean, I guess Texas wins out and they finish 12-1.
I've got to check their schedules because I feel like Oklahoma plays nobody left.
Oklahoma plays nobody. Texas has beaten Alabama. Their second best win would be Kansas State or Oklahoma, maybe in a rematch or whatever. But I mean, okay, so Ohio State or Michigan wins out. The other one's 11-1. Like 11-1 Ohio State or Michigan is not getting in over 12-1 SEC champion. It's not going to happen, right?
Yeah. If you think the SEC is not going to have somebody in there,
right? And like
and they beat Georgia.
I mean, the interesting part of the playoff is the Pac-12. So, worst case scenario for everybody outside of the Pac-12 is Oregon wins out and beats Washington in the Pac-12 title game. That means they are both 12-1, and the only loss is to each other.
Yeah.
So, like, I can argue that they both would belong in the playoff, but I just don't see both of those. They're not getting in over a 12-1 SEC team that has won the league title and has at least 3 or 4 ranked wins. It's just not going to happen.
On top, and maybe this is just me, but also the fact that they play in the SEC and not a dissolving conference, I wonder what that, especially when that conference is the SEC. See, this is when they would flex their SEC muscle.
Greg Sankey might get college football canceled if the 12-1 SEC champion got left out of the play. He might just say the rest of you are not allowed to play anymore.
I don't know in what sport that a team could beat the champs, even if they just win the last championship, let alone the last 2, and then they have a great record to go along with that, and they're like, nope, no playoffs, nothing for you. That was your Super Bowl or national championship. Week 10.
12-1 Missouri would have wins over Kansas State, Georgia, Tennessee, and Kentucky, either LSU or Alabama.
And that, how many ranked wins is that?
It would be 4.
Kentucky,
I think K-State will be. I mean, it'd be 5 if you count Kentucky because Kentucky was ranked when they.
Yeah, I'm counting them when they played.
Then it would
now, I guess if they go on if Kentucky falls off a cliff, but they played a ranked team at the time and they were unranked, so yeah.
I mean, look, I get the pessimism, I get the emotional protection, but
that's kind of steep.
Oklahoma, like there was a path to 12-1 Missouri not making the playoff before last Saturday. It was narrow. It was like a 5% chance, but it was, and look, this is also when at the end of the year, if you're 12-1 and Washington's 12-1 and they're going to go, yeah, I know, but like Washington should have lost to Stanford and Arizona State. I mean, those things matter. Those things matter at the end of the year. Let's see. Kyle says, I think Florida versus Georgia was the best result possible. Everyone back to praising Georgia and giving us 0 chance. To be fair, they're saying that about all of Georgia's. So this is kind of interesting. I agree with Kyle. I usually on Monday and Tuesday catch up with a bunch of like NFL and college football podcasts. And I was listening to a college football podcast that's done by some national guys who I think do a really good job and really know their stuff. but one of them said, well, we're not really going to learn anything about Georgia until the SEC title game. I mean, Georgia's got 14th ranked Missouri, something like 15th ranked Tennessee, and 12th ranked Ole Miss in the next 3 games.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to learn a little something.
I will say this. I'm not terribly surprised by that comment because I'm sure Georgia over the past, 3 years, they've probably had all types of ranked teams that we're going to learn something, and they blow right through them.
Well, but you learn, oh my God, Georgia's way better than it. Like if Georgia beats Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee by an average of 24 points, you know what I learned? Georgia is just on a different level.
But they've been on a different level.
Right.
That's why I feel 100%. Like that's probably why, but I get it. I don't think any of these games are scoff at for any team. Georgia's probably the most well-equipped, obviously, but I also agree with you, though. We will learn something, and maybe they learn a lot about Missouri and hope that maybe like Georgia takes this game how the Chiefs took it yesterday. They just think, this is Missouri.
I think that's unlikely, but I think my bigger takeaway here is, and I don't think it's completely unfair, and I'll explain why. But outside the state of Missouri, like I'm usually against this nobody believes in us, something to prove, chip on our shoulder. I'm not a big fan of it because every team says it, right? Nobody outside the state of Missouri really, I think, thinks very much of Missouri yet. I think they're going, yeah, you're better than last year. It's a nice story. You've done a good job. But, Georgia's going to kill you. Tennessee's probably going to beat you, and Florida's a toss-up. I think that's the way the next 3 weeks are viewed outside the state of Missouri by people that probably haven't seen this team play a whole lot, because they haven't played national spotlight games. Now, why I don't think it's completely unfair, their best win is Kansas State. It's a good win. It was on a 62-yard field goal on the last play of the game. It was not easy, but it was a good, solid win. Kentucky, I don't know. That's an okay win, I guess. I think Kentucky's okay. South Carolina, no. Memphis, it's fine. So my point is, I get why there are skeptics, but I really have started because look, honestly, the last few years, I don't listen to a lot of national college football stuff because it just doesn't impact me because Missouri hasn't been a part of it. When Missouri is a part of this conversation, I listen to the national talk a lot more. And you really do see why fans come away with the idea that the national stuff just tends to kind of embrace the name brands. I think a lot of people look at this and go, yeah, but I mean, it's Missouri. Nice story, but this is over.
Which I think it's funny when we're talking about other Power 5 teams and that happens. Or even when we're talking about basketball and we're talking about other teams that are in the big conferences. What was the championship? It was San Diego State versus UConn this year.
Yeah, correct.
I was one of those people who were saying San Diego State. That's a cool story, but personally, if it was just another big, you're not going to be the biggest blue blood, but just something I've heard of or really know about, maybe even a little bit. I can live with that because we kind of see in the game and stuff like that. It doesn't interest me. I also want to say, I get why people want the bigger names sometimes. Not necessarily the blue bloods or the top people, but I understand the big names. I will say though, this kind of reminds me of, we've had this talk before when we do national radio or national podcasts, and people ask you questions, and because we're in the beat and we see them all the time, we're thinking we know so much about the program. We know more details. We've seen them play. We've seen every snap. So we're thinking, how could you think this team, why are you asking me these questions? I can tell you haven't really watched them really play for you to be asking me these broad, questions. And this is what this feels like, honestly. By the way, guys, I'll be on the Mac and Cube show tomorrow. And they're cool. They're cool people.
They're good. Yeah, they're good.
But And Cole does his homework, so we I'm not really worried about him. But just like usually when I go on national radio and people ask me questions, it's just like, this team is this good. You don't really know about them. They do that story you're talking about, basically.
Yeah. And like, look, I say all the time, it takes all the energy I have to be an expert on one team, right? So I don't blame anybody for not being an expert on 134 teams. And this isn't like a shot at anybody in general. I just think the easy analysis here is, yeah, Missouri's 7-1, but I mean, look at the schedule. They lost the only real game they played. But it's like you're talking about people propping up Florida. The only reason they're doing that is because it says Florida on their helmets.
Right.
If you watch Florida play, Florida is a very average football team.
I told everybody that in the offseason. I mean, they beat one game. They was Tennessee. Yeah, they beat Tennessee.
Yeah,
and everybody was just, we're gonna blow it up. No, it's not a great team. And they still play in the SEC where there are good teams.
Yeah. So, and look, like all that said, it is certainly not out of the realm of possibility that Georgia wins this game like 45-14. That's not impossible. I mean, that could happen. And if that happens, then hey, all those people will have been, I guess, right, at least for that day, and that's fair. I just think that a lot of the noise you hear, a lot of the analysis you hear it's very surface level. And, which I get. I mean, I fully admitted at the beginning of the show, I haven't watched Georgia play, but I'm not.
Well, do we need to?
I don't question Georgia.
My thing is, do we question them or do we need to? No. My very first time watching Georgia can be the SEC championship. That's basically another bye or whatever, SEC championship or playoff games. I can know off of those games alone, like, they're valid. We don't need to ask questions about them.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. So complete hypothetical here. If Mizzou destroys Georgia, do they leap and undefeated and get into the top 4? So first of all, probably not. But this leads to I've asked this on a couple other shows I did today. So rank these 4 things in the order that you think they're most likely to least likely. Georgia blows out Missouri. Georgia wins close, like less than 10. Missouri wins close, or Missouri blows out Georgia. Like, what order would you put those in?
You ranked them for me.
Okay? See, because I would put a Georgia close win above it. Like, I think the chances of a Georgia close win are a little above the chances of a Georgia blowout.
Okay, yeah, that would be first, second. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But upshot is, I think a Georgia blowout is probably more likely than a Missouri win.
Yeah. I agree. It's just so many things to overcome. Like when I was writing for my column today, I was looking at the stats and I'm just like, even if it's not this guy, it's that guy. And if it's not that guy, it's this guy. And their best guy is hurt and his backup looks good. And then there's this other guy coming off an injury who looks like a monster. And then it's too many. Look,
they're 16-point favorites and they're 41-1 in their last 42 games. It is a monumental task. Nick, appreciate the question. I think we would clearly all say of those 4, Missouri blowing out Georgia is the least likely scenario.
Yeah, that's last.
And look, if Missouri blows out Georgia, like Nick, come on our post-game show on Saturday night and you can like type anything you want and I will put the comment on the screen. You have earned that. If Missouri, so a blowout to me is more than 17 points. If Missouri wins by more than 17 points, as long as it is not like, racial, homophobic, terrible stuff, you can type whatever you want in the comments and I will put it on our show on Saturday night. So seen a couple of questions like this. Does Missouri pull out all the stops? What trick plays do they have? I mean, I think we could see 1 or 2, but like, I don't think you don't go into a game planning to run 4 or 5.
Yeah, because if you're running, I feel like if you're running too many trick plays, I don't know.
It means you can't just run off it.
Exactly. Like, what does that say about you? And usually it takes one trick play for people to say, all right, like you pull a punt of a fake punt, especially when you just brought that out 2 or 3 weeks ago. You think that's not part of the game film they're watching? Like, they're coming down to do something. Look at this fake punt that was just so critically acclaimed. Let's watch stuff like that. Like, they're going to be preparing for stuff like that.
So something just popped into my head. I don't know if you'll remember this. What did we see about 4 times in the season opener against Louisiana Tech last year that we have not seen since?
Burden and Wildcat?
Luther Burden Wildcat. I wouldn't hate it.
Oh no, he's much faster and stronger and better this year. They should have been doing it, but to be honest, they haven't really needed to do it. But yeah, that would be that'd be good.
Luther Burden jump pass in the red zone. Can that happen? I mean, if Kirby Moore is watching, I got some ideas.
I'm gonna tell you why. I personally want Luther to be one of the receivers, even if he's not going to be the target. I want him out there for the threat of it. I don't want him passing the ball for me, but I get what you're saying.
But I mean, if you put Luther and Wildcat on a couple plays, and then you put him there in the red zone, like there might be something there, So that just kind of popped in. But overall, you're not winning a football game if you can't line up and run and throw the football normally. Like a trick play is good, but it's a trick for a reason. You can't get, we always say, hey, throw the kitchen sink at them. I mean, there's a limit to how much of it you can do in a game.
Wait. What if there's like a Sam Horn trick play? It's another quarterback out there they won't be prepared for that. I don't know what it could be, but I don't know.
Well, see, here's the problem with that though, because Sam really hasn't played this year. So as soon as you put Sam Horn on the field, if you've got Sam and Brady out there, like everybody knows what you're doing, right?
It doesn't necessarily have to have Brady out there, though. That would be part of the confusion, though. Is he gonna run? Is he gonna what is
so I just want to be clear here because we have had this conversation about the other team we both follow. I am for no play on which you take your starting quarterback off the field by choice.
Very true. Now, who was the starting? Was it Chad?
I mean, I'm not saying Brady is Patrick Mahomes. That's not what I'm saying.
Are you calling Sam Horn Chad Henne?
Blaine Gabbert?
Well, I'm thinking of last year, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, but you wanted to throw Burden at quarterback, so I don't know. Do you want Brady Cook as your receiver? Are we doing a Philly special? What you got going on, Gabe?
I don't know. I think we'll see something. But I don't think we'll see more than 1 or 2. So here's one from Mitchell. This is just the hypothetical show, guys. You just ask us the crazy stuff. Would you rather beat Georgia and finish 9-3 or lose to Georgia and finish 10-2?
Lose to Georgia and
I think I agree with you.
See, here's the thing though, because beating Georgia on the road and you finish 9-3, I'm just thinking if I was a coach or something, the recruiting and all the stuff you can do that, like, I got the game. But also, if you go 9-3, who did you lose to after that?
That's the problem. If you beat Georgia, you're going to be sitting 8-1, and you're going to have the inside track to the SEC title game, and you're going to blow it because you've lost to Tennessee and Florida. Or Tennessee and Arkansas. Okay,
so, yeah, I made the right decision the first time. The 10-2, get yourself into a nice bowl, maybe New Year's 6 or whatever, maybe.
I would go 10-2 because, like, there's no shit. Missouri can get beat by 30 points on Saturday, and like, they're not going to take a hit. Everybody does. It's fine. Everybody does that. If the SEC East wasn't in play, I would say beat Georgia and go 9-3 because I don't. Citrus Bowl versus Gator Bowl, I don't really care. I don't think there's that big a difference. It's just that beating Georgia and then finishing 9-3 would mean you were there. You had the SEC title game in your sights and you blew it. And I think that feels way worse than I don't feel like 9-3 would feel like 9-3 there.
This reminds me of one of my first pods when I got here. I think I asked, would you guys rather go 5-7 and beat Georgia or go 6-6 and go to a bowl game. See, now when it's closer to more so winning and higher level wins, it's a little bit harder.
Yeah, for sure. So somebody asked me this, I think it was in my mailbag last week, and as long as we're talking hypothetical things, what do you feel better about? A 4-point lead and Georgia has the ball, or a 4-point deficit and Missouri has the ball?
You got to give me a little bit more than that, Gabe. Can we put a situation? Can we get something?
I mean, end of the game. 3 minutes left. Would you rather be up 4 on defense or down 4 on offense? This is easy for me because I'd always rather be down 4 on offense. I'd always rather have the ball in my hands.
The reason I asked for the situation because I'm just thinking like, how's the offense going type stuff? Because we've seen this offense get stagnant, and then you're just like,
yeah.
Typically, I would say give me the offense, especially if it's the offense we've seen versus like Kansas State versus Vanderbilt. I think that was probably the best Brady Cook has been. He's had a lot of really good games. I think that was his best game. If they're looking like that, definitely. But I always say though, you can't win the game if you're not in the lead. So the defense isn't
I get it.
The defense isn't a slouch, but it's also Georgia, and we've been talking about a trillion weapons they got everywhere. So I guess reluctantly, just a little bit, I'll say give me the offense in the 4 point.
And I think, look, I think I'm scarred from years of watching John Elway and just knowing, I mean, I know they're up 6 points, but Elway just got the ball on his 2 with 47 seconds left. So the game's over. We're going to lose, I mean, I think that's part of it, but I would always rather have the ball because I think it's really hard to stop an offense from getting 10 yards when they know they have 4 plays to do
it. It just all depends on the offense and that defense and how the game flow is going to me. But yeah, it is still much harder to stop someone than it is to move for yourself.
All right, now you got to brace yourself here, Jarod. I'm about to throw up a hot take comment here from our guy Aiden. The biggest player in this game is either Mookie Cooper or Marquise Johnson.
Okay, go first.
I can't get there. I don't know what the justification here is.
If Aiden means one of these players will have like a play like Marquise Johnson had versus Kentucky with the punt touchdown thing, the fake punt touch. Like if it means they're gonna have the most important or kind of crazy play, or maybe in addition to like maybe a surprise performance, I get you. But the biggest player, if they're the biggest players, you're probably losing by a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
I just don't see a situation in which those guys are. So I did kind of a most important player for Missouri on both sides of the ball this morning. I said it was Cody Schrader on offense. I mean, outside of the quarterback, it's always the quarterback, right? But I said it was Cody Schrader on offense because I think you have to be able to run the ball. And I think on defense, it's Jaden Jernigan and Christian Williams because I think, look, Georgia can throw the ball all over the field. Their passing offense is better than their running offense. But if you let them get the run game going, I don't think you have any prayer of stopping them offensively. I think you have to slow down the run game, and that's why I go Jernigan and Williams.
Okay, I did something similar, and for everybody, I usually read Gabe's 10 thoughts after I write my column, specifically because I don't want to either copy his stuff on purpose or maybe shy away from something
accidentally say the same thing
so I always write my stuff before I look at his 10 thoughts, and I did something similar. I had Cook, obviously I had Schrader. My defensive person was Tyron Hop. I think he has to be big and help stopping the run. He may be tasked with playing having to guard the tight ends a little bit in some capacity. I think he has to be better this year. His numbers, his stats and his grades, PFF wise, down across the board. I just think he has to be that player where we're like, he's the best defensive player on the field. Because I think at times he still can be, but he really has to this game.
Yeah. And Matt Willis brings up a good point. Game won or lost on the line of scrimmage. I mean, last year when Missouri had Georgia in trouble, Kirby Smart said, look, they whipped us on the line of scrimmage. Missouri's defensive line dominated Georgia's offensive line in that game. I mean, and that was the biggest difference from what we expected going in. I mean, if Missouri's front four can do that on defense, I think they'll have a shot. Absolutely.
Same.
How hard would it be to sneak Nick Bolton into the game in someone else's jersey? I don't think Nick's dislocated wrist is going to work in this game.
I was about to say, so for one, playing for free and then playing on the risk and everything else, I don't think that's the move.
Yeah, and look, if I see Nick Bolton out there, I might go down to the field and say, "Hey, Nick, man, playoffs, 2 months. Let's
me trying to get Nick's attention. Hey, man, save it for someone else.
Yeah. Let's see. Can you guys sing Piano Man on the post game when we win on Saturday? I will not be singing. I'll just say that. Jarod, I don't know if you can sing. I will not be singing.
No, that's not my bag. Not my bag.
Luke Bauer under center. I'm there for that. I came close to asking Kirby Moore in the press conference last week if he had put in any packages for Luke Bauer at quarterback, but Kirby just didn't strike me like he was in a jovial mood, like he would enjoy that question all that much, so I skipped it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like we're gonna break this game down 972 different ways between now and Saturday. Bobby Brown says, who covers Dominic Lovett on Saturday?
Will it be KD? Well, KD, typically, I feel like we've talked about this maybe last week or the week before, how he's kind of typically stays on one side of the field opposite us in the press box. So he's all the way over the other side. I don't think it's gonna be KD. Maybe Ennis, because Ennis, we've seen him move a little bit. Like we've seen him move around if need. I wonder how much Drayden Norwood plays, and they do, 3 cornerbacks out there and stuff like that. I can say, but I don't think it's gonna be KD.
Here's the thing that I think makes Georgia so hard to defend. They have 9 guys somewhere between 100 and 400 receiving yards. That's without Brock Bowers. So, you don't go into a game and say, okay, KAD, you're on this guy. This is the guy. If you're defending Missouri, you clearly come say, Luther Burden's the guy we got to stop, right? One guy, 2 guys, however we do it, we can't let this guy be. There's no guy that you say that about on Georgia. I mean, yeah, Ladd McConkey had 130 yards, but you don't go into the Georgia game saying, no matter what, Ladd McConkey can't beat us. You don't go in saying, no matter what. I mean, you used to say it about Brock Bowers, but without Brock Bowers on the field, I just think you just go run your defense. I don't think you have KAD travel with anybody. I think you just line up, run your defense, and you're going to have 4 or 5 different guys on every play that you've got to account for.
Right. And Ladd, I feel like if there was going to be a receiver, though, that they were just like, you've got to match up, I think it'd be KAD on Ladd. Anything to me. But yeah, I don't think they do that.
Yeah, I mean, Ladd McConkey, I don't think he gets enough credit. I think he's scared, but I just don't think he's the guy you go in saying we got to lock him down man to man. I mean, I think, but look, I think Missouri has to get pressure with 4 in this game pretty regularly. If you're trying to bring 6 guys all the time, they just got too many dudes to cover.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the tight end versus Dalen Carnell, tight end versus linebacker situation. That's it's one thing if what is going to happen, but if the unknown or something you're not taking as serious beats you, then that opens up another world of problems.
And that's why if you're slowing down their running game, and if you can do that with your front 4 and Hopper and Bailey a little bit, then look at all the guys that you're talking about. I mean, we're talking about the corners, and you mentioned Drayden Norwood. Marcus Clark has played some. We've seen more Trevez Johnson. We've seen more Sidney Williams. We've seen more a little bit of Marvin Burks. There's a lot of guys back there that you can mix and match depending on what the formations are and what the matchups are. But if Georgia's running for 6 yards a carry, I don't think any of that matters because you got to put Carnell in there and crowd the line, and you just don't have the guys to cover.
Let me ask you a question real quick because this is something also I wrote in my column. It's just I think something big. Not only will the run game for Missouri, like Cody Schrader and any backs who may get in if they do get in, I think that's going to be important. But not just because of obviously getting the run game going and play action in the pass game, but I think it's important for time of possession. Typically, I'm not worried about that, but Georgia's top 5 in time of possession, and if they can run the ball down your throats over and over and over again, that helps. If the defense can help stop the run, Missouri's defense can help stop the run, they can also control time of possession a little bit. And I mean, that'll help on the road for sure.
And what you just described is kind of what happened in the Georgia game last year, right? The Georgia didn't really run the ball that well until then the third and fourth quarter. It was just like this. Oh man, they're just wearing Missouri down. They're just leaning on them and leaning on them and leaning on them for 5 and 6 yards at a pop. They had 25 plays for 185 yards in their last 3 drives, and it was like Missouri just ran out of gas there. So I think it's kind of like Fran Fraschilla used to say about Mike Anderson's team. The pressure was cumulative in that game. Look, we got a long time before we got to worry about a prediction or anything like that. But I just think, all right, we'll finish. This is the last question we'll take. Who do you think will be the second running back this week? Luther Burden.
I was going to say Brady Cook.
Yeah, Brady Cook. Yeah. I mean, look, man, if they gave Cody all the carries against South Carolina, they ain't giving anybody else carry. And I don't actually disagree with it because I think the worst thing you can have in this game is negative plays. Like 3 yards on first down is okay. Negative 3 yards on first down is not okay.
Correct. I will say because it's a weird week and they have to throw everything at the wall, maybe that does open up the opportunities for Nate Pete to get a little bit more touches just because if the tape shows the last 3 or 4 games, he's only got, 10 carries over 4 games. Maybe that's someone that you try to get in, swing passes, outside zone run, stuff like that.
I would think long and hard before I tried to run outside on this Georgia defense.
I'm not saying that's what I'm doing, but we're not coaches, Gabe. We also wouldn't have said Cody Schrader's going to run for, make that 63, 65-yard rush up the gut of Georgia's defense last year and almost score a touchdown. So,
true. All right, guys. So still 5 days, well, a little less than 5 days till kickoff, but we will both be in Athens. Jarod's getting in Friday. I'm getting in Saturday morning. We will have complete coverage all week for you. We're going to have Anthony Dasher on our show on Thursday from UGA Sports to talk about it. If you guys are on the site, you saw the film breakdown our Georgia site did. I can say this honestly, it's probably the best site we have in the Rivals Network. They do a great job covering Georgia. If you guys want to see the other side of it, go to UGAsports.com this week and check out what they're doing. We're going to talk to Eli Drinkwitz and players tomorrow. College football playoffs. Let's end it this way, Jarod. College football playoff rankings come out tomorrow. Where's Missouri ranked?
14.
I say 13. I don't know who they're ahead of, but I say they're 13. Just for the hell of it.
I mean, I think somebody said the other day if they were 13th, it'd be like a spooky Halloween or something. So, yeah, sure.
There you go. So appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. We had a couple hundred people on here. That's awesome for a Monday night. I apologize. You guys are missing the Raiders Lions barn burner. I think. I mean, they're putting great games on for you in primetime this week. So go check that out. But before you leave, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, do all those things. You'll get a heads up when we go live. We'll be live on Thursday afternoon. We'll be live again from Athens sometime on Saturday night. Probably shooting for about 8 o'clock, 8:30 Eastern time, 7:30 Central time. So subscribe to the channel. You'll get an alert when we do that. More importantly, hit up our guy, James Carlton, carltoninsurance.net. 314-961-4800 is the phone number. James is our guy, Drew King's insurance agent. He's my friend Tim McKernan's insurance agent. I know people who vouch for him, and you guys should hit him up. Life insurance, auto insurance, home insurance, whatever you need. Just get in touch with James. He's going to give you the best deal he can, even if it doesn't work out. If you get a quote from him, he's going to going to do some things and try to help out Mizzou's NIL efforts. So get in touch with him there, and we'll talk to you later on this week.